Hello, she's Trixie and I'm Sarah. This is our Yarn World, a place where we come to share with you our love for the yarn crafts and what it provides us on a daily basis. We are coming to you from January... Oh goodness, I forgot to look at the date.
I think it's the 27th.
Yeah, I want to say it's 27th. Let me cheat here. 27th. So, January 27th. And
2021.
Yep, we're in the new year. And we have some fun things to share with you today. We're really excited. This is going to be really fun. Mom's made some pretty good progress on her blanket, and I'm still addicted to pillows, so that's new. We just ask that you come prepared to just enjoy some nice conversation and some cozy time.
Yeah, some fun time.
Yeah. So pick up something to drink, something comforting, and let's get to it.
Yeah, what you got today?
Today I got some iced caramel macchiato.
I think I'm going to try that next week. This week, it's hot cocoa. It is cold outside. It's snowy, cold, Michigan weather.
Yeah.
And gray skies. Good time to be snuggling down with a good project and talking with good friends.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I don't have any finished objects this week.
That's a shock.
Well, last week you saw all of the things I had started, and I was gone like bonkers crazy trying to figure out what to do just because I'm very motivated by how I feel at the time. That's the way that I read. That's the way that I craft.
Right.
It's all based off of how I feel or want to do or what I want to work on. And, I really wanted to make that cardigan. I still do. But it was hurting my hands, so I just set it aside. But at the same time, I know that it's going to take a minute for me to get back to it just because I'm always motivated by the finished project, and so smaller projects give me a lot more of a satisfied feeling.
A quick satisfaction.
Yeah, whereas longer projects, though the satisfaction is immense because it's like, look at what I did, I'm capable of doing this. It also takes being inspired to do it, if that makes sense. The drive, the want has to be there. Yeah. Otherwise it isn't fun for me. And I do finish long projects. It's just I have to keep that motivation alive, and I don't want to force myself to do something. It's like, don't force yourself to read a book. It ruins the story, because it can be a good story, but if you're not in the mood to read it, then
it just ruins it.
It has a bad taste in your mouth at the end. Even though it's same with a movie. If you're not in the mood to watch a movie of some said genre, you force yourself to watch it, even if it's a good movie. You just weren't in the mood to watch it, therefore it's just not gonna...
And you won't want to watch it again.
It just has a tainted feeling.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to listen to myself, because I know that I'll come back to it. Yeah. And I know that I want it because it's something I do want to make. But my husband is always indulging me. And
it's not a bad thing.
It isn't a bad thing, except that he always teases me about not being able to finish a project, but at the same time, he's always throwing so many ideas at me, and I look like an animal in a cage being fed all my favorite treats outside the cage, and it's, what am I going to go after as soon as I'm let out?
Right.
Because I want all of them.
Yeah.
And then I start on all of them, but I only finish one at a time.
Right.
So, I don't know. This project I'm going to show you is not the only thing I'm working on, but some of my other whips I started this week are personal, are things I'm going to keep to myself. Not that I'm ever going to really not show you what I'm working on, but they're personal gifts to myself. And things I'm making for my husband for Valentine's Day, and I don't want to spoil it. I don't want him to happen to watch it, and watch a video and then get spoiled.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just am going to keep them to myself. So if my my finished projects or my whips seem really off the next couple of weeks, it's just because some of my time's being taken up with that.
And Valentine's Day is coming, so
yes. So this is still Valentine's Day themed. I am making the conversation candies. I'm making a heart pillow.
Yes.
It's a heart conversation pillow, heart pillow.
Yes.
Based off of the candy, and so.
I love it.
I smile. I know. I just. This pattern's for free. I keep finding all these really, really fun patterns that just. I love them. And I love the creativity of these really, really random website names. This one's called Once Upon a Cheerio.
Isn't that so cool?
I love it. It just speaks to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now they can find it there, right? The free pattern?
Yes, it's a free pattern. I'll make sure it's linked. And as a fork in a world full of soup, I feel it. I feel it, okay? Into my soul, okay? So this pattern's for free. It's very simple. I mean, I have made these so quick. These are really quick to whip up. You make 2 hearts, and then of course right now what I'm working on, what you probably will see me working on during this video during my mom's time talking, is you're just creating a border that will help bind the 2 together but give it more volume. So it's pretty much the band that holds the 2 together.
Yeah.
And what you do to put the conversation on, so whatever text you want to put on, they're recommending to do the X stitching.
Yeah, the cross stitching.
The cross stitching. And so I'm sure they're going to explain how to evenly place the some sort of outline for what you want it to say, and then you just do the X the cross stitching and to put it on. It is so much fun to make holiday things for me. I always thought that Christmas was my favorite holiday, and I really do think it still is, but there's something about just being able to celebrate a holiday that can help take the edge off of life.
Yeah.
And it really is something that in my adulthood I'm feeling more, because I nothing against how you brought me up, but we really didn't celebrate other holidays. We only celebrated Christmas.
Well,
and like Easter.
Yeah.
And maybe 4th of July.
And Thanksgiving.
Well, we did, yeah. Like we celebrated our American holidays, but when it came to like all the other holidays,
I didn't decorate for everything.
No. And it's not that we didn't like buy Valentine's candy or something, but it wasn't something that we went to extreme measures to do.
Right.
And it's not that I want my kids to just be extreme about every single holiday, but like I said, there's some sort of relief to be able to take your mind off of everything that's going on, especially with coming out of 2020, going into 2021. We're still going to have that aftermath, that taste in the back of our mouth of what 2020 has brought us through. We still are dealing with masks. We're still dealing with Corona. We're still dealing with the election, regardless of whether it's over. We're still dealing with all that stuff in America. And I know that you guys in Europe are feeling stuff as well. Mm-hmm. And I know that you guys are going through it extremely hard times. And I really, really do feel for you guys. But just when you're able to sit at home and enjoy just being like, nope, I'm not going to focus on this. There's a holiday coming up. We're going to have fun with this.
Yeah.
It's just a throw pillow, okay? It's a throw pillow. I think,
and it's fun.
And it's just fun. And it's innocent. And
it's
just
something to look forward to.
Yes. Yes. And it gets my kids involved because my kids are 1 and 2, and I can actually put a throw pillow out and it won't be destroyed. Whereas if I put decorations out, most decorations are going to be destroyed for me quickly. Like delicates, even if I put paper things up on the wall, they're just going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
My kids are going to do whatever they can to pull them down. And so if I can put something out that I know is going to last substantially, that means something to me. And so most things are going to be throw pillows for me.
Yeah.
They just are.
And it can be a tradition. I mean, you can put it out every year and the kids will look forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be something to make them happy, make them smile, make them giggle. And I think I'm going to end up having a series on here where every single season, and even if it's not a season, I'm going to be making a really, really funky throw pillow. I think that that's just going to be my thing. Like every single month I'm making a throw pillow.
There you
and
go.
I don't know if I'll ever stop. But if my husband's indulging me, he's got to deal with the pillows, okay? So
Yep.
that's what it is. So you'll see how many of these I'll have done by next week because I'm planning on making like... I want to say that Conversation Hearts has like 3 different colors. I think it's blue, pink, and that yellow. That cream yellow. So I'm planning on making at least 3 of them. And I think my father-in-law wants some, so I'm thinking about after completing this one, messaging him and seeing if he wants any because he lives in Florida.
Yeah.
Because that way I will know in enough time to get them done.
And mailed.
Yeah, so there's that.
And so, story. Okay. I counted my blocks. And my blocks, I ended up having 139 of the muted colors, and I was already working on 140. And I decided right then and there that I was just going to split the count into 270 black muted blankets. And which is fine with me. I can do that. I don't have to do what the pattern calls for. I can split it and do it my own way.
You were inspired by the pattern. You knew you could do it, but after a while you end up taking your own turn on it.
Yes.
Your own spin on it.
I wanted to get started putting them together. And
so satisfying.
Yeah. And I wanted to, I want to get the borders put on them, and I decided that I'm going to do that for the muted, and then I have 117 for the various colored ones. So I think I'm going to make 3 more for that and have 260 count blankets and do maybe a bigger border for those, just so that they're about the same size. So I'll have 4 about the same size, almost. And that I decided was going to go towards Christmas this year for the grandkids. I have 5 grandkids, so I'm going to have to make another one. And I'm not sure what the colors are going to be on that. I've got to decide who's getting what of the ones that I've already been making. But whoever is going to be the last one, I can fit it right to them. Because I'll be picking the colors especially for that. But it's so satisfying. I've gotten 70 black muted. I've gotten the strips, all the blacks made into rows. Excuse me, I've got a burp here. And I've gotten 2 of the rows put together. So, and I'm putting, I sat down on the floor, I puzzled it all out. And the fascinating part of it was that the colors that I split them into 2 categories. One being more of a girl colors, and another one being more boyish colors. And I ended up, without even counting, I just made as many as I wanted of whatever color I was using at the time. And I still ended up with the right number of vertical rows. And I'm not going to be able to show you that whole thing right at this present time, but I can show you that I've gotten, well, maybe you could see this corner here. So I've got the orange, I've got the 2 whites and the green,
And the gold.
And so.
And the pink. Like, when she was puzzling it out on the floor, it was the exact amount for every single vertical row.
Yes.
For all her solids, she had just enough to make enough for the vertical row for this size of a blanket. Like,
and it's actually kind of huge for me. Just being 70 blacks. So I've got seven across and 10 down, of course. And so I'm putting the rows together now, and after that I get to do borders around with some of the colors that I've used in the blanket already. And then with the boys' colors, I might do a totally different pattern and just figure it out as I go. And with the colors, I'd like to, well, I guess with the bordering the various colors together in black, that'll make the blacks bigger, so it'll actually turn out about the same size. About yes. the same size too. So yeah, I am so excited about this because it is turning out to be 4 blankets instead of 2 big ones, which I wasn't real sure what I was going to do with those anyway. This way I can split them all up. It's only January. I'm working on the Christmas presents already, and I know I've got enough time to get them done. So I am so excited, and I love the process of getting each block put together with within the rows, and then each of the rows put together with the next row. And I know I'm gonna love doing the borders, because that is, you know, even when you're looking at the pictures in the book that I started this whole pattern from in the first place, that was kind of what drew me to it. It was the blacks, but it was also the borders. It was so beautiful. And so I'm looking forward to getting them all done, showing them all to you guys, and giving them to the grandkids for Christmas. It is turning out wonderful.
I feel like this is just some sort of like meant to be moment, because we're just sitting over here. One's making blankets, the other one's making pillows. One's making blankets, one's making pillows. You might see a theme here.
Yeah.
You know, pigs in a blanket. So
we're doing what comes naturally to each of us, and I have fun doing the things that will make my family happy. You know, like she was saying last week, you never really stop nesting when you have kids. And when the grandkids come, it's even more special, because it's like you get to do these things for these little individual little souls that come up and call you Nana, and give you that smile or that hug, or whatever it may be. Yeah, the laughs that are unique to their little personalities. And you just know that when they get these blankets, they're just going to love them, because they're kids and they love you. So they're going to love what you give them.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing that, for me, makes it so special.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I think that for me, I feel like whenever we start talking about having another one, like, it's going to be so nice to, like, I had put crochet, so here's a story time for a minute. We keep saying that.
That's fun. I like that.
We were considering making the channel. Some of you that remember from the first video, I talked about how our setting in this house would have never been possible had it not been for circumstances that had happened in 2020 that had put us here. And we had a cockroach infestation in our other house that, though if we really wanted to, we could have really worked through. It was just the nail in the coffin for as many things that were happening in that neighborhood and in that home. and we were outgrowing it. I mean, it was a 2-bed, 1-bath home for a 4 people family, and it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
I mean, my living room was my baby's
bedroom.
It was rough.
People couldn't walk in because his crib was right on the other side of the door.
Kitty corner from the door.
Yeah.
And when my husband worked nights, it was a nightmare. We did what we had to do, and we were hoping to make it to 2021 where we could, because we were working on our credit. We had good credit, but we needed more credit. We only had 1 credit score, and even though it was fantastic, they wanted more than 1 credit score to match up with to prove that we had steady credit, if that made sense. So we had gotten a bank credit card that we were just using for like gas and going out for coffee and just simple purchases, so we could make some credit and be able to keep up with our,
pay it off every month.
Yeah, so that sort of thing, right? No big deal. We got that set up. We were ready to start working towards a house, and we got cockroaches. Our neighbor had, must have been dealing with some sort of an infestation, but she never dealt with it. She never went, and the only reason why I say that, she never told me that, but for the degree in which the infestation got to, apparently our county had come in to inspect it based off of reports, and apparently the condition in which the cockroaches had left her place, the floors and the ceilings were coming apart and falling off of the ceiling. The ceiling was falling off of its, what was holding it up there, and the floors there was holes in the floors, and I don't know her situation, okay? I'm not about to say that, but there were circumstances that left me frustrated with that, because when I had confided in her that I was dealing with a small cockroach infestation, it was not that bad by no stretch of the imagination. We were just dealing with them because living in the place that we did, our kitchen was at one full end of the house. That's where they were. But right off of the kitchen was our living room, and they were getting into Daniel's stuff, my son's stuff, and that was a problem.
Right.
And it pushed me over the edge. And I admitted it to her, and she said that she'd keep an eye out for them. Never admitting that it was her issue, that she was spreading through the neighborhood. And I'm not trying to call her out. It's just,
it should have been said.
It could have been dealt with if we as a neighborhood had realized that she was struggling because she had kids and just that she might have needed some help. She wouldn't have had to move. None of us would have had to move. We probably would have come together and tried to help afford an exterminator so all of us did not have to deal with it.
And she could have prayed for the situation.
Right. And the thing is that all of our trailers have been infested. That whole entire street got infested. And I realize that 2020 has been a rough year for everyone. So it is what it is. But it was a nail in the coffin for us, and I moved back in with my parents for a time so that my kids were not living in it. And my husband ended up having to stay at the trailer because that's where our stuff was, and we were going through it to make sure that it didn't travel with us to this place. This place was a godsend. It was pretty much put on a silver platter to us, and it has been an answer to prayer. 3-bed, 2-bath.
It's a wonderful
It's perfect.
home.
It's perfect. And it's meant so much to me. But when I was with my mom during that time, she was working on projects. And though I was a crafter, I had to put that down due to not having space for it in that old place. And whenever I did, it was taking up time for my kids. And they didn't understand it, and I brought it back into my life when she wanted to make some socks, and I wanted to do them with her, and we did, and it was fun, and
you made them, and I didn't, because I never figured it out.
Well, you'll figure it out.
I don't even want to now. I'd rather just make the blankets. It's easier for me.
Well, that's fine, but it brought that reminder back of why I love to craft in the first place. It really reminded me why I did it, and it was a stability thing. It was a point of personal grounding, if that makes sense. As a mom, you lose yourself and your kids into your kids, and a lot of things that you were without your kids, before your kids consume you, and so it's hard to have some sort of sense of self or personality, and this helps me feel like I have a sense of myself.
Right.
It gives me something that is just for me, a hobby, something that is for me.
Right.
And it gives me time to relax. Like I said, we've talked about this before, a steady pattern, a steady kind of mindless pattern is a form of, like, it can almost be like a form of meditation, because you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It's giving your brain a rest because it's just having to go on autopilot. And then even with harder projects where you actually have to sit down, look at the pattern, really think through it, it's another form of concentration. And even though it's exercising your brain a little bit more, it forces anything else that could possibly be trying to take that spot of focus out, so that you can just focus on something that you can make, whether it be for you or for someone else. You can say that you made something from a ball of yarn. And crafted it into something. I always think of that whole Michelangelo saying where he saw a piece of stone, and where everyone saw a piece of rock or marble or stone or even blank canvas, he saw something needing to just be etched out. Or expressed. And for me, I think of that with yarn. It's something that we as crafters, even if we're following someone else's created path, we are taking another step towards making something that wouldn't have happened had we not put ourselves fully into it. And it has been such a blessing to have this passion come back into my life. And sometimes it takes a bad situation, like I was saying, to bring you back into this passion. And even though I might be stuck on pillows right now,
that's okay.
It's okay. It's okay to just enjoy making one thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, obviously I'll make other things, but I don't know. I guess maybe I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I guess it's just more of, if you have a passion that you once were head over heels for, you loved doing it, and something else felt like it had to take priority over the time that you were spending with yourself, please recognize that if it is feasible, it is okay to put yourself first. Have a time just for you every single day. You're not being selfish. It's okay. Moms especially tend to have an issue with this because they put so much of themselves into their children and their homes, or even if they're working moms, they have a hard time not still making time for yourself just because you feel like you have to provide and then come home and take care of the kids. It's okay. I saw this article where it was about the whole idea where errands, or it's like the husband is the general, like, I'll take care of the kids, go take a shower, or I'll take care of the kids, you can go run the errands alone. That's not time to yourself. Those are things that have to be done regardless of whether you want them to or not. You have the right to some time together with yourself, having this. You almost have to actually rebuild a relationship with yourself, the love that you have with yourself, with something,
and make time for it.
And I just don't feel like it's expressed enough. You have the right to enjoy things with yourself. You have the right to have a relationship with just you, because how are you supposed to know what you like if you don't spend time with yourself?
Right.
And no matter how long you spend time or have a relationship with other people, including your significant other, you're the one that you have to live with forever. And so if you don't have things to spend time with yourself, you're going to go crazy.
Yeah.
Because your brain can be a crazy thing to live through, especially when you're going through a season and a time of history like we are right now.
Right.
And that's why I'm just asking that even if you don't know how to craft with yarn, even if you possibly you're not a crafter necessarily, if you can find a love in a genre or reading, or even there's nothing wrong with being interested in video games or movies. Like I know people that actually are what they consider professional movie people, just because their favorite thing to pass the time is to watch movies. And I always thought of that as just like an entertainment thing, but for them, they love it because they love the crafting of movies.
Right.
So it means something to them.
The creativity that was put into them.
Yeah, the craft, the oh my goodness, look at the lighting there. That how did they get that? What lens did they use? Like, it to them, it's a craft, and they want to be movie people, or they want to do something, or like my brother's a musician. When he hears music, generally he doesn't listen to the lyrics. He's listening to everything else, and whereas you and I would be listening to the lyrics and be like, that's a good beat, he's listening to every single instrument and what it's producing and sequence to be able to make the music that is flowing.
Yeah,
and
the last thing he listens to is
the lyrics. And for me, it's just like, what is it that, and with people, a lot of people, when it comes to our craft, they're just like, they look at the finished product. But the creators look at everything that went into it.
Yeah. And
I just hope that no one is left without having some sort of hobby that really a passion. It's sad for me to see people that have lost passion or have never even discovered their passion.
Right.
And I just would like to encourage you that there's ways of figuring out what it is. And I encourage you to seek those out.
Right. And this is during that time that she was living with us for that month. We figured out that we wanted to do
this
the videos for you guys.
Yeah.
And so we were figuring out a name. We were figuring out what we wanted to talk about, what we were wanting to represent to you guys. And so it became a time of learning ourselves to know what we wanted to do for you guys. Mm-hmm. And this is something that we both look forward to every week.
Oh, yeah.
And we think about what we're going to talk about with you guys during that week. We do not script anything. As you can tell, we're not looking down at papers. We used to make a little list. We don't even do that anymore. We come on here totally bearing our hearts to you guys and wanting you guys to know that we're friends. We're going to be friends to you guys. Leave us comments so that we can get to know you a little bit better. But otherwise, we're just bearing our hearts out to you guys every week so that you guys can get to know us and to know what we do and maybe to fall in love with what you're doing.
Yes, I would love to know. Because, like I said, to be on YouTube is really something really fun for me because I've been in love with the YouTube for a long time. Ever since I was a teenager, I would watch YouTube. Probably since I was I got a laptop. I think I was 12 years old or something like that.
So half your life.
Yeah, most of my life I've loved YouTube. I've always had an account. I've always done things. That was a point really for me for a very long time to be able to look at vloggers and look at gamers, look at crafters, look at people that would make food and do this and
you had a lot of different interests on here.
And I did, and I found interests based off of what people wanted to share.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
Yeah.
And when I realized that there was a community that was based for this, something that I've been doing forever, it was just this
is what we need to do.
And just so you know, there's someone on YouTube for anything that you enjoy. Like, there's a place on YouTube that's called BookTube, where it's people that love to read and they want to share their love with reading.
Right. Yeah.
And with you. People that are music people. They want to share their love with music.
Well, there's also ones about people who write books.
People who write.
Because I was into that for a while, writing books myself. But they are on YouTube telling you tips and tricks and all kinds of things that you can do for your writing. And that was very enjoyable for me as a writer to get on there and learn that, geez, there's a community for that even. Yeah. There's a community for everything. Cooking, and we're just so grateful for that.
Wood turning, wood working, wood whittling.
Wood burning.
Wood burning. You got weavers and yarn crafters of every single type around the world. You also
spinning yarn.
Spinning yarn. Dyeing yarn.
Yes.
Dyeing fabric, quilting, clothes making. And I'm talking about general crafts here, but there's even the art of welding and building robots and machinery and TV and
home maintenance,
video editing, video,
etc., etc., etc.
It's like, the love of blank. Just fill it in, and YouTube gets a bad rep for some of the things that are allowed on it, and some of the things that people will do to just make money off of it, and it's. I think that's just the nature of the world. You will always have a good thing and have someone take advantage of it.
Right. And we're not here to do that.
Well, it's not just that. You got to be able to appreciate things for what they are. You got to learn to take things for face value. Yes. And I can't just deny all the good just because of the few bad.
No.
And I love what I do, and I'm just so happy. And, speaking of how to love something even more, my husband was mentioning to me the other day, you want to know what it takes to actually be considered an expert in anything?
What?
I want to say it's not necessarily a scientific thing, but statistically, someone who's considered an expert in anything, regardless of a degree, reads at least 5 books for a full year on one subject.
Oh, I believe that.
So if you read 5 books a month about something for each month, regularly on something, you are considered an expert in whatever it is that you're reading about. You might not know everything about it, so it's like, don't consider yourself a brain surgeon just because you've read all those books. You still have to be qualified because you have to be trained and to have the field experience. But what I'm saying is that there is something to be said about someone who takes effort to learn everything that they can without having the ability to go to school.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting, that you can actually just be considered an expert in it just by the amount of interest and pursuit that you learn in it. And like a couple of episodes ago, or maybe it was the last episode, we were talking about the gift that I got that was the Vogue.
Yeah.
The Vogue knitting.
It was the last episode.
And it was talking about the history of knitting. Well, my mom ended up buying this book.
Called A Stash of One's Own by Clara Parks. I only read the first story. There's 22 stories about all kinds of people, whether they're sheep herders, yarn dyers, people who knit, all kinds of ways to have a stash. And it's a very interesting read. I'm going to read just a little excerpt. Sorry. We're talking about experts, and I'm trying to read an excerpt. Every knitter will be able to pick up a skein from her stash, any skein, and tell you a complete and compelling story about it. Now, that's kind of what Sarah and I are trying to do. She tells you when she picks up her yarn, the story completely behind it of how her husband found it and why he picked that color and why she had to have it and what she could make with it. I mean, that to me is part of why we have a stash in the first place. And sometimes we buy yarn not knowing what we're going to make with it. We just have to have it at that moment. Put it into
It
our
was calling to us.
yes. Put it on our shelves in our yarn room and say that we have it. And it's for a future project. Now
And then
there's
in the
other
middle of-
times we have the project and we have to go get that yarn. So you just never know what it is that's going to bring you to it, but a stash is always a good thing.
Yep, and for me, it's just one of those things where it's like, when you read books, like, I've never been someone who read stuff like that, but more recently I've learned to appreciate more real, like, autobiography.
And I like biographies, autobiographies, anything about a person.
Yeah, like someone who took the time to talk about their experience. I just said I like listening to vloggers. I'm very much more of an audio person, so when I read, it's more entertainment for me than it is to learn necessarily. But when it's something that you love to do, I think that that's a book I'm going to end up having to borrow from you because I'm just going to want to know. Because I just love that. I love being like, I was there. I've done that before.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not alone because I always feel alone. I always feel like I must be the only person that is that weird to do something. Like, oh my goodness. I don't know what it was. That's what it was. I have recently been doing a lot of Bible studies about parenting. And so like my Bible app, you can hit plans and they have a whole bunch of list of plans, and I was looking at parenting plans. I've been doing those, and they've been and generally the person will have a slight story as to what has brought them to said conclusion, or what brought them to looking up said verse and why it's so important and why it, what it means to them, or like the breakdown of what it means to really actually get through to your kid and what it means, the struggle of the heart, sort of a thing. And there's been a lot of moments recently where all of a sudden I'm like, that happened to you too? like that's not just me, because we as parents, we don't like to admit that we fail. There's moments that we fail. So we don't like to be real and we don't like to admit it. But when you actually are around people who are like, this is what it's like to have a strong-willed kid, and all of a sudden you're reading a vlog or listening to an audio plan, or you listen to a parenting book, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I thought I had it bad. Or, oh, okay, I feel a little normal now, because
you're not the only one.
You're not the only one. And so the sense of community is very important. And when we're dealing with a time where we're being forced to not be able to be community.
Yeah. That's so hard. Even as an introvert, I'm still finding it hard not to get out and be with people.
Well, here's the thing. My best friend Stephanie mentioned something. Apparently there are some statistics that are saying that the 2020 corona pandemic is going to leave what is called a generational setback. So, like in the Great Depression, when people had to learn how to live without, they end up learning that, like, instead of buying note paper because it was too expensive, they saved every single scrap of paper that had enough room to make a note on it. in replacement. And then by the time the depression was over and they could afford it, they were such bad hoarders because they were so scared to give up something that they could use later that they didn't know the value of being able to get something new because they were too scared to buy new.
They figured out a system that worked for them and they weren't willing to give it up.
Well, there are people now that think that 2020 is going to have a lasting effect on millennials and Gen Z, that this will be possibly one of the hardest to date effects of generational setbacks, meaning we will have one of the hardest things to unlearn. It's pretty much something that you have to learn to unlearn, and generally it takes the children of said generation to help the parents unlearn it. But it's pretty much we possibly will be a generation that is going to be slightly germophobic. We're going to be social distancers. We're not going to know how to feel safe around too many people.
Yeah.
Where it's almost going to be not necessarily fear, but it's going to be so instilled in us to stay away from people or stay away from a certain set number of people at a time that we won't know how to have a sense of community and celebration again without a sense of guilt or fear. That and the masks. That's gonna be something that's gonna be very hard to unlearn,
yes.
or not feel some sense of shame unless being around people that do it themselves, and in some cases that is punishable right now. And so it's being very, very hard. Like I said, experts really think that this is going to be a lasting effect on the generation that's growing up to be the next adults.
Well,
if that makes sense.
For your case, your son was born right before the pandemic, and your daughter was born the year before. They don't know any different.
She was born 2018, but still, they will never have known what it's like by the time that they have memory. By the time they have cognitive memory, they will, depending on how long this lasts, they will never know what it's like to come up to someone and not be able to read them without it being by their eyes because of the amount of masks that they will have to make judgment calls based off of. And I'm not trying to be conspiracy theorist here. I refuse to get myself sucked into that. I'm not saying I'm against anyone who has a theory. People have their right to make hypotheses and stuff. It's just, if there's nothing to prove the point, then I have a hard time just sticking to it just because it's a good fear. Because that's what I feel like a lot of them are recently. That's just my personal. But
the life we're living right now, it's going to be hard to undo.
But the reason why I'm saying this is more of there was something that was told to me in the beginning of the pandemic of, be careful of having your kids around masks or having your kids wear masks if they don't have to, based on if they were to be snatched. Because it's going to be hard to identify people if all you're identifying them is by their eyes.
Yeah.
And so it's something that I've had to, not keep in fear. But when I go to a store now, I have those leashes, those like anti-lost bands that have a bungee on them that I kind of leash to the car or to myself, where I know that the kids can't get too far away from me, but it would take effort to take them away from me.
Yeah.
Because
it's a different world.
I deal with anxiety when it comes to that.
But this is what our verse is today. Cast your burden upon the Lord. Yeah. Now, we are talking about a little bit of fear, anxiety, but that's the world we're living in right now. It doesn't have to be like that. God can take the burdens of our world and cast them as far as the east is from the west. He does not have limitations, so he can take on everything that we consider a burden, and if we cast them on Him, He can take care of them for us.
Yeah.
And we're not to fear. We're not to get in fear. We're living in a world that's different right now, but the fear does not have to be here. So cast your burden upon the Lord, Psalm 55:22, and that's something that we all have to remember to do, is just give it to Him and let Him deal with it.
Fear can feel instinctual, and because we based our actions off of what makes us feel safe. But the reality is that you have control over your fear, because you have control over your actions and what you do. So please understand that if something's making you feel anxious, it's not that you need to ignore it, because that's a bodily response to something you have the right to work through in a healthy way. But what we're trying to encourage is that if you don't have any healthy means to handle it, and you're dealing with a lot of anxiety and stress, there is a God that is more than enough, that is worthy of everything that you're going through, that has a means to be able to help you through it. You can give it to Him. He has a way, and He has a plan to be able to get through this. Because a lot of the times we just don't know what to do, and He has a means.
And He can be trusted with that problem to take care of it for you.
And He can help you through it.
Yeah.
I encourage you, if you need help, if you need verses, if you need a prayer partner, we are here. We're here for you. We ask that you, if you have any questions, if you have any interests, if you have anything you would like to share with us, please comment below or email us. We have an email down below in the description box. And we will get back to you as soon as possible. We are very thankful to have seen you this week. We have to go because my children, I think, might be waking up. I'm not sure. But as always, stitch your way
to mental health.